Welcome back to the podcast. This is episode 39, Finding Calm in Your Business When Everything Feels Chaotic. I've been away for a little while, and I feel like lately I have been opening up all of my episodes and my videos and my blog posts by saying that. But there's been, again, a lot going on behind the scenes. Before I get into the episode, I just wanted to share that I'm trying something new. While you might be listening on Apple or Spotify or Substack, I'm also doing a video recording of this podcast. So hello to my people watching on YouTube. You can find the video version of this on YouTube, and I'll be sure to link that in the show notes below. So this is just something that I'm trying out to see kind of where it goes. It may not be overly sustainable, so it might not be something that I keep up with, but I am going to try to include video in my podcast going forward as we continue on. And because I've been away for a while, just to kind of let you know, I try to upload the episodes on Sundays. So you can find the episodes now coming out more frequently on a Sunday. So just to kind of fill you in a little before I get into the episode and what I have to share with you today. As I mentioned, I've been away. It's been a while. It's been 6 months, I would say. So I might as well just get right into where I've been, what I've been doing. But I guess you could say that this past year has been a lot. It's been incredible in terms of the physical and emotional energy it's taken to kind of get through the last little while. But about a year ago, just a little over a year ago, we moved into a new home, and it took about 2.5 years to build our home. It was supposed to be our forever home. And just a few months after moving into our forever home, a home that took, like I said, 2.5 years for us to custom build, my husband and I decided that we were going to end our marriage. And that was obviously a very difficult time, not an easy decision by any stretch of the imagination. But I guess you could say since then, I have been extremely busy, focused on life. My energy has obviously been focused in other areas of my life that were priority, that could not be ignored. Things that needed to be tended to, like, for instance, finding a new home to live in for me and my 2 children. That took quite a while. I live in Calgary, Alberta, and the housing market is very expensive. And there was not a lot on the market that was kind of suitable for what we were looking for. Anyway, after about 5 or 6 months, we found a really beautiful townhome. I absolutely love our home. And it's like the perfect fit for us. And we got to stay in the same neighborhood where we had built the home that we had moved into a year ago, our family home. So that was really lovely. And then, of course, September, I was transitioning my kids, even though we mostly homeschool, unschool, they're in a learning pod now. So that was a bit of a transition. So it's been a very kind of ungrounded, I guess you could say, few years. So I'm happy to be settling into what now feels like a long-term space for me and my children. So that's what kind of inspired this episode, because through all of this business, the Slow Creative, my business, has been an anchor for me. And it's one place where I can return, I can be creative, I can do something that feels very joyful and a lot more lighthearted than some of the things that have been happening in life behind the scenes. It gives me a space to express myself, to create, and just kind of remember like who I am, what I love. And that's what I wanted to talk about today, is because I know that maybe you've had a season like this, maybe you're in a season like this in your life or in your business right now, where everything just feels chaotic, both inside and out. So when your business, the thing that, used to ground you, or maybe that's the thing that's been holding you together, like it was for me, it starts to feel like when everything outside of your business is chaotic and life is a little crazy, your business can start to feel like just another thing that you're trying to hold together. And there could be some guilt associated with it, especially if you're not able to show up as consistently. Things start to crack behind the scenes a little because you don't have as much time and energy to tend to your business. And if you're not nurturing it, like anything, it begins to wilt. And it I don't want to say that it dies, because that's a little dramatic, but things don't hold together. You're the glue. You are the most important thing in your business. You're the thing that keeps everything running. So if you're unable to tend to things in your business, things do fall apart a little. And that's what I wanted to share with you in this episode is I wanted to talk about how to find calm when your life and your business both feel really messy, and how to get back to a place of clarity so you can get back to working in a place of calm, simplicity, and sustainability. Okay. So let's talk about when life and business feel really heavy. Let's just be honest here. So many of my clients are in their second half of life, which carries a lot of layers. And we can't often always be prepared for what that entails. A lot of us are running our businesses, but we're carrying so much else, things that we couldn't have anticipated until you arrive. Even though I still have school-age children, they're only 8 and 10, soon to be 8 and 10, they're still young. They have high needs. I have a child on the autism spectrum, and I have another child with some medical challenges that makes life a little chaotic behind the scenes at times, to put it mildly. A lot of you who are following me are in the second half of life, and you're dealing with aging parents who need a lot of your care, who need a lot of your attention, and this can take on a huge emotional and mental toll that is hard to focus on other things like your business, like your clients, like the content, like trying to launch something new and make sales so that you can, earn an income from your business and live comfortably. Other things like our bodies are changing. Like, let's face it, hormones are crazy. That's not something that you can totally be prepared for. Of course, all of our bodies are different. We don't know how our bodies are going to react. And we do know that they begin to change when you get to the second half of your life. And that can create stress on your body. It can add a lot of emotional overwhelm. Some of you are dealing with chronic illness. But at the heart of it all, exhaustion tends to be something that many of us are dealing with. And it's just like a deep exhaustion that won't lift, whether it's due to the stress of dealing with kids or teenagers or aging parents or chronic illness. It leaves us feeling pretty wiped. And so there's just this mental load that so many of us carry of just trying to be everything to everybody and trying to hold on to who we are, trying to run our businesses in a way that feels calm and sustainable. But when things outside of our control are very chaotic and messy, things in our business can sometimes start to feel heavy and disorganized and really out of sync. So it's very easy to get that feeling of disconnection from your business pretty quick. That's what happens to me when life outside of my business becomes really messy and chaotic and stressful. Things in my business start to fall by the wayside. Things start to feel heavy. I don't feel as inclined to show up. I don't have that energy and that spark, and it can be just really challenging. So what can happen is when you take these long breaks or when you take some time away from your business, even though a lot of the slow business philosophy teaches us to have a business that doesn't need us to be on all of the time. We can take breaks from social media. We can take breaks from blogging or collaborations and things like that. We don't need to be as visible, which is one of the beautiful things about a slow marketing philosophy is we don't need to be as visible. We don't need to be on all of the time, which is music to our ears if you're a highly sensitive person with a lot of things outside of your business. But even when you have to take these breaks because life is heavy outside, it can turn to feelings of guilt pretty quickly and feeling like comparison, right? Like, why can't I just get it together? Why can't I be consistent like everybody else? But the truth that I want you to take away from this episode is that when you have to take these breaks and you have to step away from your business because life gets messy, let's face it, we're human. Life happens. You're not behind. You're just human. You're just a human being living a human life. And your business doesn't need speed all of the time. It doesn't need speed most of the time. Most of the time we can do things in a really calm, simplistic, and sustainable way. The thing that it really needs is alignment. So let's get into how we can kind of come back to alignment. I've just come back from a big break because, like I said, life has been messy behind the scenes. A lot of stress, a lot of emotional, mental, and physical toll on my body, my psyche, my nervous system. And I was feeling pretty disconnected from my business. I thought, I don't know if I'm ever going to feel that same spark again. But it didn't take long, and that's what I want to share with you. So if you're feeling disconnected and things are crazy behind the scenes and you're trying to reconnect with your business and you want things to feel good again in your business, that's what we're going to talk about. So coming back into alignment. The calm starts to return, for me at least, when I focus on three things. One, energy. So your energy, your creativity, and your values. So the first one is really your energy, and this is really important, is about protecting the most precious thing. Because without your energy, if you don't have energy to show up, you don't have energy to be online, you don't have energy for clients or all of the things that are required, because there are many hats, obviously, that we wear as a solopreneur. If you don't have the energy, you are the most important thing in your business. You are the asset. You are the engine that keeps everything running. So we need to protect the most precious thing, and that is your energy, because it is the foundation of everything. And it's the first signal that something is out of alignment. So I have some questions for you that if you're driving, just kind of quietly reflect on them. You can pause the episode, or if you have a journal, this might be a nice time to just take a little pause, have some tea, and journal on some of these questions. But the first one is to ask yourself, where is my energy leaking? The second one is, what drains me most in my business right now? And three, what replenishes me, even in small ways? So energy often leaks in the overgiving with clients. For example, overgiving in our lives outside of work as well, right? Perfectionism, spending too much time on tweaks and things that are not necessary when the work is already good enough. Or just overcomplicating things and overwhelming ourselves when things could just be simpler. So these are some things to consider when you look at your business. Maybe you are overcomplicating something. Where is perfectionism showing up when you could just say to yourself, good enough is good enough, and it's ready to be put out into the world right now, exactly as it is. So when we're leaking a lot of energy, one of the ways that helps you know that you've been doing this is it starts to show up as resentment in your work, whether it's towards certain tasks that you have to do. Maybe it's clients, maybe it's platforms. For me, that was Instagram for a long time, just totally over the platform. I am starting to feel a little re-inspired, so we'll see where that goes. But the slow business philosophy in marketing is really about learning to honor your natural rhythm instead of fighting against it. So here I want to share with you some practical ways that this might look in your business. One of the things that I do is I build buffers into my days. So for instance, I don't jump from client call to client call. That would be too overwhelming for me. There are obviously times when things are out of our control and it needs to happen, of course. But as a rule, I always have some time in between client calls, and I don't have more than a few calls a day. Like 2 or 3 calls would be my max in a day. The other thing that I do is I used to finish work, have to get my kids, say, at 3:30 from school, and I'd finish work right up until the very last minute. I'd jump in my car and I'd run off to get my kids. That was like disaster. I would feel really irritable. I would feel stressed. I would feel frazzled. I feel like I didn't have space in between for a breath. I don't do that anymore. I make sure to buffer in time. So if I have one task to the next, I give myself a little spaciousness in between so I can kind of recalibrate, get my head in the right mindset, and be ready to take on the next thing with more clarity, ease, and obviously joy. I also create shorter work windows that match my energy and match the capacity that I have. I don't have 40 hours in a week. Even if I did, I wouldn't want to be working in my business 40 hours in a week. That's just too much for me. Being on a screen or sitting at a desk or any of those things, as much as I love my work, 40 hours would just feel like too much. And so one of the things is just having shorter days. And so I typically work not every single day. I'm always in my business every day doing something. But sitting down to work, like I'm no more than 4 hours in a day would be max. And there's breaks built in between. But typically I have a couple of hours to sit down. Right now, my kids are at school and I've got some errands to run later. So I had about a 2-hour window to sit down, record this podcast, get a few things organized, and then I will call it a day. I'll come back later this evening after my kids have gone to bed and I will sit down and I will probably edit this podcast. So that's how my business schedule works. Of course, we're all different. That's what works with my kids and everything else in their schedule, but also it's my energy. So the other thing that I want you to pay attention to is I want you to start noticing your body cues. Like, where are you feeling tense in your body? Are you getting headaches? Are you feeling irritable? Like, listen to those cues, and that's a sign for you that you need to shift something. Something is out of alignment. Something isn't working very well. I used to ignore these cues all the time. Like, I use the example of working right up until my kids had to get picked up from school. I'd pick them up. I noticed I was irritable. I was just not in the right frame of mind, not the way that, not bringing the energy that I wanted to bring when I had to get my kids from school. And that was a cue that, okay, this isn't working. I obviously need some space. So just making little adjustments where you notice your body is out of alignment and letting you know that this is too much. This is not working. Okay. So protecting your energy is really, it's a good leadership skill, right? It's a good business leadership skill. So the second pillar that I always come back to is my creativity and just kind of rekindling what feeds my soul. And sometimes this has nothing to do with like being a good, smart business decision. It's really just a good soul decision because it feels good. It brings me joy. And I'll give you an example of that. But before I do, a lot of times when life is crazy and hectic on the outside or the inside or whatever, business is crazy, life is crazy outside, there's a lot of chaos and a lot of stress. When we're in survival mode, creativity is the first thing that goes. It is often the first thing that goes. Do you ever notice when you have a lot of stress or you're going through something really heavy in your life? It's so hard to show up and try to come up with content ideas or be on video and do things that, are typically pretty easy for you. Because I know that anybody listening, your work, you're skilled, you have a lot of experience and a lot of knowledge. But the creativity, you lose that creative spark when you're going through something heavy, when you have a lot of stress and chaos in your life. So remembering that it's the first thing to go when there's a lot of stress, but also remembering that your creativity is a thing that helps to breathe life and joy back into your work. Creativity is so important for what you do. And there's 3 questions that I'm going to give you now that you can ask yourself to reflect on this. And the first one is, when was the last time I created something purely for me? Number 2, what used to feel fun or expressive that I've stopped doing? And number 3, where in my business do I still feel sparks of joy or curiosity? So creativity doesn't always mean like art or having to produce something that's very artistic and feeling like you need to be an artist to be creative. We are all creative. This is an innate gift that we have all been given. Even if you've forgotten about it, it's there. It's still within you. Creativity for you could be something as simple as reimagining how you're delivering your offers. Maybe it's designing a new process or a new workflow to get clients into your business, or when a new client signs on with you, like reworking that process. That can be a very creative process. And maybe it's just journaling your ideas instead of forcing out a specific plan for your business. Just to give you an example, like sometimes this can look like forcing something in your content or on Instagram because you think that's how you should do it. There's a lot of, with the algorithms, they go crazy. People are always trying to create for the algorithms. So that's like a fast way to kill your joy, especially if you're doing something that goes against what we're going to be talking about next, and that's your values, right? That's a very quick and easy way to just kill all the joy and fulfillment you have in doing something. Just to give you a really quick story about what this looked like for me is last year, I think it was last October, I started to do YouTube videos. I have a passion outside of my work and it seeps into my business too. Luckily they overlap, but that is to create like cinematic films, short cinematic films. It's often usually my family, or it could be simple things about my day. These are not shared with anybody. They're just a private thing. But I wanted to do more cinematic videos for my business. And I thought, I'm going to try YouTube. And so I did that last year, and it was a lot of work, but it was a lot of fun. The videos that you see on my YouTube channel are not cinematic necessarily. They're not necessarily the ultimate vision that I have, but it was a starting point. And I just started doing them because I just wanted to. I wanted to pick up my camera and I wanted to film, and I wanted to make videos and tell stories through the use of video. And I love editing videos. I'm one of those weird people who like the editing process. And that was just a fun thing for me. And it was a really fun way to spark creativity. And just a new platform and a new medium for me to try. So that was a lot of fun. It might not have been necessarily the best business decision because it took up a lot of time. And I did get some engagement on YouTube, and that was really fun, but it wasn't maybe necessarily the best way to deliver content because it did take up so much of my time. But I would like to get back there. I had to take a break, obviously, due to all the other things that are going on, but I still love it. And it's still a medium that I hope to get back to or just kind of bring into my business when I can. So let's talk about what you can do, a little gentle practice to help you re-engage and rekindle your creativity. So the first one is to just spend 20 minutes a week making something that doesn't have a purpose. It doesn't have anything to do with your clients. It may or may not. Doesn't necessarily benefit your business in any way. It may or may not. But this is something purely for you. It could be journaling. It could be just working on your website for fun. It could be all kinds of things. Essentially, we're talking about just doing something for the joy of doing it. And that's what I want you to do. You could make a Canva graphic. You could just pick up some paint and a pencil or something and just do some painting. You could collage in your journal. It doesn't have to be anything that you're going to share with the world. This is really just time and space, an unmonetized project, no judgment, just to rekindle the joy and love of just being a creative human being and helping this to spark ideas in your business later. Because often when we get into doing things that are fun and creative and joyful, then it helps us align with new ideas. It brings in fresh inspiration. So this is one of the beautiful things about rekindling that creativity. So the next one and the final pillar here that I want to talk about is your values and just returning to what truly matters. If you've been away for a while and things have been really chaotic and you're thinking, how do I get back into the flow of my business? How do I reconnect with it? I don't feel any love for it anymore. I don't know what to talk about. You just feel really out of sync. Your values will help anchor you, and they're going to remind you of why you started this in the first place. So the first one is to ask yourself, what values guided you when you first started your business? Number 2, which ones feel neglected and totally out of reach to you right now? And number 3, how might you make decisions through your values again? So, for example, if you value connection, if that's one of your top values, then maybe it's time to focus on deepening relationships, either with some new clients, maybe with some collaborators in your niche or in your industry. Don't go out there chasing leads, but just nurture the relationships and the people that you have in your audience or your environment, whoever's closest to you now, and start nurturing those relationships. If you value beauty, for instance, maybe you spend some time just curating your visuals and getting your workspace feeling inspired again. Maybe it's like cleaning up your desk and putting up some new artwork and just making things feel pretty and very curated and like a lovely inspirational space to go do your work. If you value ease, maybe you just stop over offering everything and overdoing and people pleasing and start simplifying your services. Maybe you need to scale back on something. Maybe the services you're offering just have been too overwhelming, too much. You've had too many things included in there. Maybe you need to step back and simplify and build out a new process for that. So your values are really like your built-in compass, and these are going to be the things that kind of guide you home whenever you're feeling lost, whenever you feel misaligned or out of sync or disconnected. Your values are the thing that's going to get you back to what truly matters for you. Okay, so let's get into some practical things that you can do to help you gently realign this week. If you've been going through, if you're in a funk in your business like I've been in, things are chaotic, things feel full, and your business feels scattered, here are 3 ways that you can begin to find calm again in your life and in your business. So the first one is to create a clarity hour. This is a date with yourself. Setting aside 1 hour this week where there's no phone, no multitasking, no 50 million tabs open on your screen, and just reflect on what's working right now, even if it's a small thing. What's working? What feels really good? What feels forced and what feels draining? Where are you feeling those energy leaks? And what would I love my business to look and feel like 6 months from now? The second one is to simplify one system. So choose one thing that's been bothering you, like your Canva folders. Maybe those got out of whack. Maybe you can't find your designs when you create something. Maybe you have a client workflow that feels very overwhelming and It's confusing. You get a new client. It's like, where do I start? What do I have to do? Maybe you need to work that workflow again. Or maybe it's like cleaning up your digital files and cleaning up all of that stuff. So start there and create calm. And then when one part of your environment starts to feel in order, the rest starts to just breathe again. You start to have spaciousness. That was the space that I started when I took some space away from my business and I needed to come back. The first thing that I had to do was I had to come in and just get organized. I couldn't function. I didn't know where to start. I had to come back in, organize my website. I had to organize some client systems that got a little out of whack. I was accepting clients into my business and things felt like I was always having to repeat the steps and figure out what I was doing. And I was like, oh, this is frustrating. So I had to go back and revisit some of those systems. And then the third one is to revisit your values. So write down your top 3 and just ask yourself, how can I bring these into my work this week? Not as a concept, but as a practice. How can I bring my values back into my business? Like, one of the things that I really value is authenticity. So how can I bring that back into my business when I come back in? And like, one of the ways is just showing up here on my podcast and just speaking into a mic. Yes, I have some notes so I don't get too off track because I can ramble, definitely. But I've got some notes. I just speak into a mic. I'm on the camera. Hello. And just be myself and share hopefully something of value that's going to help get you back on track in your business as well. So just remembering that small, gentle adjustments is what's going to create sustainable change for you down the road. Okay. So as we close out this episode today, I want to leave you with this final question. And that is, what would your business look like if you stopped trying to keep up and started listening to what feels right instead? So again, maybe calm starts with that quiet clarity hour, a date with yourself, trying to figure out, where do you need to start? What feels out of whack? What feels misaligned? What feels good? Doing that one small system, creating calm and cozy in one area of your business, in one corner of your business, deleting old files on your computer that are clogging it down and making it slow, cleaning up your website, fixing up an offer that feels a little disjointed, going in and organizing your files in Canva. Just find one area in your business that you can create that calm coziness that feels like really good. And then finally, returning to what truly matters. What value is it that you want to really actively be bringing into and consciously bringing into your business and your work this week, starting there. So you don't have to rush your way back to alignment. You can feel your way back there slowly, gently, and intentionally. This is not about a perfect process. We are all just human beings, just gently and slowly finding our way back. So that's it for today's episode. If this episode spoke to you, I hope that you would share this with a friend, someone who is craving more calm in their business. And if you would like to continue exploring this with me and you want to learn more about my work, you can always find me at kristabauer.com or on Substack as The Slow Creative. And until next time, take care of your energy, honor your creativity, and build your business from a place of calm.